Imagine failing a job interview, suffering a heartbreak, or making a deadly mistake. But instead of living with the consequences, you just reload your life back to a previous moment. Fresh, untouched, like nothing ever happened. Sounds like a dream, right? Now imagine this. Every time you press that restore button, you lose 5 years of your life. Suddenly, this isn't a tool for perfection. It's a slow self-destruction masked as a second chance. What kind of world would that create? A world where perfection is possible, but only for those willing to pay with their own time. A world of flawless decisions and early graves. And maybe worst of all, you'd never know if the version of someone you're talking to has been here before. Welcome to a hypothetical world where humanity has achieved the unthinkable. Every person can set and reload their own restore points, just like you would on a Windows computer or a video game save file. At any moment, you can rewind to a previous version of your life. Your body, your choices, your memories, all return to that snapshot in time. But there's one terrifying cost. Every time you restore, 5 years vanish from your natural lifespan. You'll wake up as your younger self. Yes. But biologically, those years are gone. Your heart ticks faster. Your death comes closer. There are no refunds. And yet, people use it. They use it to undo breakups, to retry confessions, to pass exams, to escape guilt, to cheat death. Society adapts and warps. Relationships collapse. Success becomes a matter of who's willing to die younger. People treat life like a script to rehearse, not an experience to live. In this world, every decision carries a haunting echo. Is this moment real, or just a restore file waiting to be overwritten? Let's dive deeper into this unnerving world, starting with how the human mind begins to unravel, when life no longer has irreversible consequences. In this new world, the human mind is both liberated and corrupted, with the power to restore any moment at will. At the cost of 5 years, people begin living in loops. Fear vanishes, but so does finality. Every risk becomes negotiable, every embarrassment optional. And in that strange freedom, a new kind of psychological fragility takes root. Children are taught early. You can always fix it, but only if it's worth 5 years. Some become cautious, hoarding their lifespan like gold, terrified to ever press the button. But others, especially the bold, the broken, and the ambitious, become addicted to the rush of undoing. Imagine being able to say something cruel, then rewind, jump off a building, then restore, cheat on a test, then go back and redo it perfectly after seeing the answers. People no longer fear failure, they embrace it, because failure can be corrected, edited, and polished until perfect. But in return, the emotional weight of learning disappears. Regret is no longer a teacher, it's just a glitch to be patched. This also creates a bizarre psychological paradox. People become obsessed with perfecting moments, redoing conversations, decisions, or even entire years just to get it right. Life becomes less about living and more about optimizing. And yet, each restore costs 5 years. At first, it doesn't seem like much. What's 5 years for a second chance? But the costs add up. Quickly, a man who redoes his wedding vows 5 times for the perfect moment dies in his 40s. A woman who redoes medical school rotations dies before practicing. The more people chase perfection, the faster they fade. Mental health begins to collapse. Therapists report new disorders, restore addiction, anxiety, and preemptive grief. People spiral, unsure which version of their life is the real one. And worst of all, no one trusts their memory anymore. Was that argument real? Or just from a previous timeline? Did your partner say I love you for the first time today? Or the 5th? Even identity becomes unstable, because when you can rewrite your own life at will, who are you really? But the psychological cost is only the beginning. When everyone can manipulate their personal timeline, relationships, trust, and social bonds begin to fracture under the pressure. Let's explore how this society warps the very concept of connection. In this world of restorable reality, human connection becomes a house of mirrors, fragile, suspicious, and strangely scripted. Every meaningful moment is haunted by a terrifying question. Did you really mean that? Or did you rehearse it? Trust, once the bedrock of love, friendship, and community, fractures under the weight of doubt. People begin to assume the worst, that confessions of love were polished through 10 rewinds, that arguments were pre-staged, or that apologies were rehearsed versions after dozens of failed ones. What was once spontaneous is now suspicious. Romantic relationships suffer most. Imagine finding out your partner had restored 5 times to deliver the perfect "I love you." Imagine realizing that every argument you lost, they had practiced winning it. Authenticity dies. Even dating becomes a strategic performance. People create literal restore dating strategies. Say the wrong thing, reload, adjust, try again. It's no longer about compatibility, but optimization. Some partners become obsessed with finding a flawless first date, restoring endlessly until they craft it, each time losing 5 more years. Parents, too, begin to unravel. A mother who made a mistake disciplining her child might restore to try again, but each attempt shaves off years. Some parents become obsessed with raising the perfect child, restoring over and over until the child's personality bends under the weight of manipulated timelines. Others refuse to use restores at all, trying to preserve their health, but guilt builds every time they let a mistake stick. Friendships suffer quietly. People begin to withdraw. Why open up to someone when you know they could just restore and undo their reaction? Why be vulnerable when sincerity can be overwritten? Social media becomes its own kind of war zone. People post videos of perfect moments, but followers know that took them multiple restores to get right. Influencers boast about how many years they've burned to get the perfect life. Celebrities become symbols of decay, young and radiant in public, but dying early in private, sacrificed to the grind of perfection. Eventually, laws try to catch up. Some communities enforce one-time zones, areas where restores are disabled to preserve authenticity. Weddings, childbirth, funerals, and therapy sessions are strictly regulated to remain restoration-free, but enforcement is difficult. Black market tech emerges, letting people secretly record and re-enter moments that were meant to be sacred. The core of human connection, mutual experience, trust, unfiltered emotion, begins to collapse. Every conversation becomes haunted by invisible echoes. Every gesture is doubted. No one knows who's truly present, or who's just delivering the final draft of a looped interaction. But where relationships suffer, the legal world spirals. What happens to laws, justice, and ethics when criminals can simply reload, when evidence is undone, when the timeline itself becomes a weapon? Let's explore how governance and morality disintegrate in this restorable reality. In a world where every human can restore their life, like reloading a save file, and lose 5 years doing it, the legal system is not just challenged, it is shattered. Let's start with the obvious. Crime. A person commits a robbery, gets caught, then instantly restores to the moment before they did it. This erases the crime, the evidence, and the memory of anyone who witnessed it. They're 5 years older now, but they're also clean. No arrest record, no trial, just gone. Murder becomes even trickier. A killer could slaughter dozens in a fit of rage, then restore to a peaceful moment, aged but legally untouched. The victims are alive again. The crime never happened. But here's the twist. The killer remembers. They live with the memory, and so might others, if they survived long enough to see the original timeline. This sparks a terrifying legal phenomenon known as ghost crimes, atrocities that technically never occurred, but that people remember from previous timelines. Victims and witnesses start forming temporal witness networks to compare restored timelines and log crimes that exist only in memory. But here's the ethical nightmare. Can you prosecute someone for something they undid? Laws scramble to adapt. Some governments try to outlaw restores used for criminal purposes, but how do you prove it happened? Others create new branches of law. Temporal ethics courts are designed to hold people accountable for intentions rather than outcomes. But these courts are riddled with flaws. People fake, restore confessions to get others convicted. Blackmail thrives. I saw what you did. You may have erased it, but I didn't. A new form of power emerges: memory banking. Corporations and governments hire people to keep encrypted. This creates a dangerous economy. Pay someone to remember your crime and restore after. They can blackmail you, or they can testify if they're still alive. Because remember, every restore costs 5 years. So whistleblowers age rapidly. Witnesses burn their lives just to hold truth in place. Justice becomes a battle of sacrifice. Only the truly selfless or the desperately vengeful can afford to pursue it. Then comes the political collapse. Politicians restore after scandals. World leaders rehearse speeches until perfect coups are undone. Treaties are forged, then unmade in secret. Democracy erodes as the timeline itself becomes a tool of manipulation. Some regimes go even further. They force prisoners to restore repeatedly, aging them decades in months as punishment. Others offer prisoners a deal: restore 10 times, give us 50 years of your life, and walk free. Life becomes currency. Justice becomes a market. And still, deeper ethical questions grow. If someone uses a restore to undo his self-destruction, is that a victory or a denial of choice? If someone uses restores to manipulate a partner, is that emotional assault? If you choose to vanish to avoid facing trial, can the state restore you? In this world, justice isn't blind, it's exhausted, fragmented, and dying young. But even amid this chaos, a new kind of genius emerges. Those willing to sacrifice years to gain limitless skill, mastery, and innovation. Let us explore how education and discovery evolve in a world where time is no longer linear, but is always expensive. In a world where failure can be erased and trial and error is just a button press away. Human learning evolves at breakneck speed, but so does human obsession. Suddenly, the question isn't, how long will it take to master something? It's how many years are you willing to sacrifice to get it right? Imagine a teenage pianist who restores every time they hit a wrong note. By their 20s, they perform flawlessly, but they've lost 30 years of life to costly repeats. Imagine a scientist who tests theories, restores, tweaks, variables, then repeats. Discoveries that once took decades are now born in days, but at the cost of human vitality. Education is revolutionized. Students begin setting study checkpoints before exams, restoring to try again until perfect scores are guaranteed. Top universities become known not for their prestige, but for how efficiently they prepare students to burn time in exchange for results. Degrees become hollow. What once represented 4 years of rigorous learning now signals how many times someone rewound to pass the hardest exams. A dangerous culture forms. The restore elite. These are people who willingly sacrifice decades of lifespan to become world-class at something overnight. Athletes, musicians, engineers, coders, all able to loop training sequences hundreds of times. Their talent is terrifying. Their bodies prematurely old. But not everyone can afford to lose years. The poor ration their restores for emergencies. The rich turn it into an arms race. A billionaire startup founder might restore multiple times before pitching an idea, ensuring the delivery is flawless. By the time they're 35, their body is nearing 80, but they own half the world. A chilling new term emerges in education and business alike, called Timeburners. These are the ultra-ambitious individuals who climb the ladder not through hard work, but through restored abuse. They're respected and feared. But then, the side effects begin to show. Timeburners suffer from cognitive wear. Their minds struggle to reconcile multiple versions of reality. They report hallucinations, phantom timelines, and identity drift. The inability to distinguish who they are in the present versus who they were in one of the past loops. Some break down completely, whispering about memories that never happened, and skills they can't unlearn. Others chase knowledge beyond sanity. A rogue group of inventors begins restoring endlessly to speed up research on theoretical technologies, nuclear breakthroughs, AI, antimatter. These individuals, known as loop scientists, become national security threats. They burn their lives to build things others can't even comprehend, only to die young, leaving behind notebooks filled with genius and madness. In schools, there's backlash. Some nations ban restores in education entirely. Others limit the number of life years that can be sacrificed in learning. But enforcement is impossible. People hide restores like drugs. Black market education arises. Pay a mentor to coach you through looped perfection, with quiet nods and whispered warnings. Don't burn more than 20 years. You'll feel it in your bones. And yet, some see this as the golden age of innovation. Cures are discovered. Languages are learned. Artists perfect their vision. It's a renaissance built on a graveyard of wasted time. But while innovation thrives, the economy warps into something entirely new. What happens when time itself becomes the most traded resource, and lifespan is the new currency? Let's dive into how labor, wealth, and power are reshaped in this age of costly perfection. In this new world, time isn't money. Your life is. Lifespan becomes a currency more valuable than gold, more coveted than oil, and more fragile than trust. Entire industries adapt to this new form of power. Corporations no longer care how smart or talented you are. They want to know how many years you're willing to burn. A new line on every job application reads, "How many restores are you comfortable making for this position?" Job training changes overnight. Instead of month-long onboarding programs, employers now encourage hires to restore through training loops. Mess up on the first day? No problem. Just reload and try again. But here's the catch. Every mistake costs 5 years. New hires are often praised for their perfect performance, but insiders whisper about the cost. She's only 25, but her biological age is 47. This leads to a horrifying innovation. Restore clauses in employment contracts. Companies offer bonuses for each restore an employee is willing to make during high-stakes tasks. Need to get that sales pitch right. Sign this waiver. Loop it till you nail it. We'll pay in cash. We'll pay in years. Lifespan becomes a bargaining chip. And like all things in capitalism, the rich find a way to game it. Restore surrogates. Emerge poor individuals who are paid to restore on behalf of others. They take the hit, live the loop, pass on the knowledge or results, and age prematurely. By 30, many surrogates look 70. They are called time mules. The stock market becomes even more volatile. Traders use restores to simulate outcomes, replay negotiations, and retry strategies. But their life expectancy plummets. New trading algorithms are named after dead brokers who burned out their lives chasing perfection. Then, there's the death market. A global black market for lifespan trade arises. You can sell your right to restore to someone else, letting them live longer while you become disposable. Hospitals offer secret programs. Need a transplant? Donate 10 restores to the network. Get priority treatment. Insurance companies bundle restore policies with life coverage, calculating your premium not by accident risk, but by how often you've undone your mistakes. This creates two terrifying economic classes. The preservers are people who refuse to restore. They age normally, live with their mistakes, and are seen as either noble or foolish. The burners are those who loop constantly, climbing the ladder fast, dying young, rich, and used up. Social services struggle. How do you support a 40-year-old with the memory of a 20-year-old and the body of a 70-year-old? How do you calculate pensions when age becomes subjective? Families break down under financial pressure. Parents restore to avoid fights with their kids. Children restore to undo bad grades. Spouses restore to avoid divorce again and again, until love becomes a prison of endless do-overs. When someone goes bankrupt, commits a crime, or falls ill, they often make the final choice. One last restore. They rewarned two before it all went wrong, sacrificing their final years for one more chance. Some succeed. Most vanish into early graves, technically never having failed, but dying all the same. As the world turns faster and life gets shorter, something begins to unravel deep in the human soul. With time so easily manipulated and death just a countdown of undos, what does it even mean to be real anymore? Let's confront the collapse of identity, memory, and meaning itself. By now, society runs like a fast-forwarded simulation. Mistakes vanish, lives repeat, deaths accelerate, and beneath all the technological glory and optimized lives, something begins to break: the human soul. People can no longer tell if they're living their first draft or their 50th. They look in the mirror and see someone older than they feel, because they are a 30-year-old whose body is about 70. A teenager who's already burned through multiple adult lifetimes trying to avoid heartbreak, failure, or shame. Time becomes meaningless. Birthdays are no longer celebrated. They're feared. Aging isn't about growth. It's about decay. How many years do you have left after all your restores? People start to lose their sense of narrative. A person might remember falling in love 5 different ways, or die multiple times only to reload. The past becomes fractured, filled with phantom memories from timelines that technically never happened. This births a new psychological plague: temporal dissociation. It's a condition where people can't tell which memories are canon. They mourn things that never happened. They recall lives they never lived. They dream in timelines they erased. Support groups form, chrono survivors, where people share the trauma of looping through pain over and over until even joy loses its meaning. Many describe emotional erosion, the inability to feel fully because every emotion has been diluted by repetition. A perfect wedding, relived 5 times, becomes less magical and more mechanical. A child's first steps, watched on loop, no longer feel miraculous. Spirituality collapses, then mutates. Religions fracture. Some say restores are a gift from God. Second chances made divine. Others say restores are a sin, an attempt to cheat fate, to rewrite the soul's journey. New belief systems rise. Chrono-fatalists who refuse to restore no matter what, choosing pure timelines. Loopists who embrace the chaos, believing life should be sculpted like art, even if it kills you. Temporal nihilists who believe nothing matters anymore because no action is final. Philosophers debate endlessly. If you erase a moment from existence, does the pain you felt still count? If someone you loved erased their time with you, are you still their soulmate? If death comes early by choice, is it self-destruction or sacrifice? Art becomes distorted. Movies, books, and songs reflect fragmented timelines and parallel lives. Some artists use restores to perfect their work, then die immediately after, believing they've created their final masterpiece. Art becomes a eulogy for time. And worst of all, people begin to doubt reality itself. Because when everyone can rewind, redo, rehearse, and erase, how do you ever know what's real? Was this conversation genuine? Was that moment of joy authentic? Or were they practiced, perfected, looped to death? In the end, nothing is sacred anymore. Not time, not memory, not even life. The gift of restore points, the power to undo, becomes a slow erosion of purpose until the very fabric of humanity collapses not with war or fire, but with silence. A world of people who lived too many lives to feel alive at all. So now we ask the final, most haunting question. Would you do it? If you could rewind time, fix every regret, but shave off your future, one chunk at a time, how many years would you be willing to lose? In a world where you can undo anything, where heartbreak, failure, humiliation, and even death can be erased, you might expect utopia, but instead, you get something far more tragic, a humanity that forgets how to live. Because when every decision can be reloaded, when every mistake can be rewritten, when every emotion can be rehearsed until perfect, you stop growing, you stop risking, you stop feeling, you become addicted not to life, but to its edit button. And worse, every click comes at a price. 5 years. 5 years of your lifespan. 5 years closer to the grave. Some would say that's a bargain. Some might describe it as a slow, drawn-out demise brought on by countless small concessions. So ask yourself, what would you undo? The breakup, the fight, the one thing you said and can't take back. And more importantly, how many years are you willing to lose for the perfect version of your life? Maybe the better question is, if we lost the ability to restore, would we finally learn to forgive ourselves and each other? If this idea made you pause, rethink your regrets, or even gave you chills, this is your moment. No do-overs. Hit that like button before this timeline slips away. Subscribe for more mind-bending what-if scenarios that challenge your reality, and drop a comment. If you could rewind your life, but lose 5 years every time, how many times would you press restore? Would you use it once? Never. Or would you keep pressing until there's nothing left? This is your timeline. Make it count.